You are most welcome. This is Ilibe Africa TV. You are most welcome. Subscribe, please. This is Ilibe Africa TV. So today we are just going to look on the slavery in Africa. We know one of the most things which made Africa to be back, to be underdeveloped, was slavery. What was slavery? So slavery was the first class of antagonism in human history, meaning which was manifested in a notorious form of exploitation. So the Africans were exploited by the Arabs, by the whites, and suppression and humiliation. This economic system created the possibilities of some people live on the sweat of others, the government, individuals, and indeed many administrative powers on the slaves. In most cases, a few lords or masters became masters of others and their labor. Slaves were considered to work for their masters. Slave owners had a complete grip over both the means of production and the slaves. Also, slaves were disowned, their rights as were brought and sold like cattle or killed freely. Slave owners forced their slaves to work hard, but in turn were provided with the minimal means of subsistence, just enough to keep them in working routine. Thus, they were regarded as mechanical executors of someone else's will. Besides, slave masters never gave any personal material incentives for this labor. In some parts of the world, they were debarred from marrying. The masters categorized them as cattle. You see, the surplus product of the slaves was distributed in the following ways. A part of it went to the slaveholding state in the form of taxes for the support of the interests of the ruling class, and the other was presented to owner of the capital. That was slave mode of production. How slave trade killed the economic and the confidences among the Africans. So slave labor was employed to build cities and large structures such as the Egyptian pyramids. You might have experienced how the pyramids were built in Egypt. These were built by the slaves, you see. So the other work done was to construct dams and irrigation schemes in Egypt. Slaves mined silver, gold, and iron, and they were used as domestic servants in different Asian states. Slavery in Africa never existed as an institution except in Egypt, Muslim communities, and on the coast of East Africa. You might have experienced people from Brazil. These are Red Indies. You might have experienced people living at Dakota, living in different places. Those were or Tobago, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. These are the results of slaves or slavery business. You can see. So you cannot hide this history. That's why there is a certain saying that men and women do lie, but numbers never lie. Men and women can lie, but numbers never lie. So the people, you can find the people of Brazil, Costa Rica, some of the Afro whites people or communities. These are results of slavery movements here and there. The people of Zanzibar in Africa, Zenji, when Zanzibar comes from the word Zenj. Zenj means, Zenj is the Arabic word. Zenj means black people. Zanzibar, Zanzibar. That means black people. You can find that many people in Zanzibar, black and white, blacks and whites, have been intermarried or intermingled in marriage in their marriages. So all these were the impacts of these uh, business movements from one place to another place. So this integration of slavery, the inherent of and irreconcilable contradictions within the slave set in its demise, the class struggle between the toilers and the exploiters precipitated the crisis and dwarfed its development. So slavery made the underdevelopment of Africa. That's why we can assess the work, the greatest work of Walter Rodney, how Europe underdeveloped Africa. Now you can see. Bob Marley once saying that if you don't know your history, you cannot know your destiny. Then the outcome of this was the destruction of property and the stagnation, as the masters and the free masses did not participate in the production. That's why during the slavery trade, of course, the Africans could not participate their everyday works for their own existence. So they all participated to produce the production and the development of their masters. So the Africans remained poor and poor, and hence they were mislocated from one place to another place. This is Father Liberio, the historian, writer, author, and the linguistic of different languages, international ones and the local ones. So subscribe this channel, please, if you want to know all things about Africa. So the impact of slave trade. The slave resistance crippled the economic and the military muscles of the masters. As their military power was weakened, colonial subjugation and the plunder were hampered as major source of state wealth and slavery. Finally, slavery lost its importance. In Rome, for example, slave masters allowed the slaves to pay money in order to be liberated. You see, now it was a kind of dehumanization and torture. So the growth of productive forces and the emergence of more and advanced instruments of labor necessitated the change in the mode of production. For these new implements needed more devoted workmen rather than slaves who were tired of this system and they demanded freedom. So as the time goes on or went on, the slaves demanded their freedom, and hence the slave masters had to look on the other ways of producing. Rather than slaves, they had to hire the people who were ready to produce freely and to be paid. Hence, slave trade was slowing, not